Freshlist.io.
Hello everyone and welcome to today's episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce. I am your co-host Rachel.
And I'm Delia.
And today we are going to be talking about
Role playing.
But specifically role playing when you're not even there. What?
When the other person's not there. You're just mentioning names and or imagining the other person's there. So let's get into this one.
Let's get into it. Okay, so we both had similar stories.
Yes.
Where we learned that other couple friends of ours, not the same people, and she doesn't know my people and I don't know her people, that mentioned, or I got my people, admitted that they together, husband and wife, fantasize about her or had a fantasy about me,
you.
That we are their person or whatever.
Yeah.
What in the world?
That was a little weird. I actually got a late night call and then an early DM in the morning or voicemail or text message to say, sorry about that. And it was, and for me though, I will say, initially it was a little bit flattering because I was like, oh, how funny. Like, I would never think that somebody would actually call me and say, hey, can you pretend that, you know, you and I hooked up and this and that. And I'm like...
Because now you're like an active participant in this whole thing. And I'm like,
yeah, but like, I don't want to go there and I don't want to say that. And no, embarrassing. And so I was like, look, do your thing, have fun, enjoy yourself, don't worry. And then the next morning, of course, it was this big apology. And I was like, don't worry about it. As long as you're having a good time, just know that I personally don't want to join anybody's, like, you know, bedroom.
Situation, yeah.
And I know that there's a lot of people that, like, you know, vet other women and other guys to be like, hey, do you want to swap partners? And that happens more often than not. You know, I've heard it all. And nothing shocks me. And especially with doing You Deserve Fresh Lettuce, you hear so many stories.
We hear many stories.
So many, like, letters and messages and text messages. And you're like, oh my goodness, we almost need to do a podcast just on the letters that we get, because I'm like,
an episode on that, because we are getting them sometimes with photos and everything included.
Yeah.
Well, I know in my personal situation, I was married at the time, and we would hang out as couples, and so as many couples do, they make friends with other couples.
Yeah.
And we were just having a conversation. Everybody was drinking. The guys somehow got into a conversation about threesomes and fantasies and role playing or whatever, and they got into this whole narrative of like, hey, have you and your wife ever like created a story that you kind of tell each other? It's like a sexy time story, you know, maybe it's whatever, it's, you know, what's called like, anyways, it's just like sex talk, but I can't, there's like a word for it. And,
role playing?
And it's the role playing, but there's something else and I can't think of the word, but
when it comes, like, who
do you imagine or whatever? And then one of the guys was like, oh, we imagine Rachel. And then I was like, wait, what? I was over there like off to the side.
Oh, no.
And my husband was there and everything. And then I was like, wait, what? Wait, what are you guys talking about? And his wife was there and she's like laughing. And she's like, yeah, like you're our person or whatever. And I was like, oh. So I went from like my face, just I felt the heat, like the embarrassment.
Did you turn the color of your shirt?
I think I turned the color of my blouse. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, I could feel the heat.
Yeah.
But then I immediately like looked at her because I thought, you know, I'm not a very jealous person at all, and I don't know how I would feel if my husband was like...
And you looked at her, you're like, I don't know that I want to hook up with her, though. If I was a lesbianist, like, she wouldn't be the person that I would want to, like, carpet munch on, type of thing.
Oh, oh, let me get my toothpick. He's not my person or my type, and she's not my person or my type.
Beer belly?
But it was, I mean, just listen. I'm not trying to give any clues in case they're watching the show, but I will tell you, it was like, oh, so I didn't get to that flattery stage. I just got, instant shock, like kind of embarrassed. I was caught off guard.
I guess you know what? You were there. I got phone calls, so that's different. You know, it's different when you're like in an environment of like drinking and having
everybody
a good time,
was there,
and everyone's like watching you. You're like, oh, right. Awkward. And you're like...
I tried to play it off like I was super cool. And it was like, oh, yeah. Right. But I remember instantly thinking like, oh, is she okay? Because like she was laughing and everything. But then I was like, well, how would I feel, though, if my husband was like, hey, babe, what if we imagine that so-and-so? like was with us.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what do you do and think?
Well, it depends, and it depends on the dynamic of your relationship. I always say this, so it depends. Like if you guys have an open, marriage, and I've partied with people that are swingers, and I just know that maybe she may get a little touchy-feely, and she may get like a little bit too handsy. And there's people that aren't swingers that, like, the girls get drunk, and then all of a sudden I'm in the restroom and they're trying to take their clothes off, and I'm like, wait a minute, dude, I don't go, wait. And I mean, it's been a couple of times, and sometimes some of the girls are married, by the way, and that's just the way they roll. I know that there was also a woman and a man that were married. They're a little bit older, and they had a girl that was like a college student in San Diego, and they would hook up with her. That was their girl. But they
I just saw that on TikTok.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I literally just saw that.
Well, this is like someone like years ago, by the way, that like knew the girl that was in college, and like tuition, car, everything was paid because this couple was very well to do, and they just wanted to hook up with her. So if you have a relationship or a marriage that's that open, where you're like the wife is cool with it, the husband's cool with it, then I always say, if you guys are both playing in the same playing field and you guys know the rules of engagement, there's no foul. If your husband's just constantly trying to pressure you to have a threesome, but that's not your thing, that's kind of the hard part.
It makes it hard.
Then you're like, I'm kind of being disrespected. What am I lacking?
But that story that you just told, I literally just saw it yesterday or the day before on TikTok,
really?
And it just triggered me because I know we talked about it off camera.
Yes, we did.
And you were telling me the story, and I was like, oh man, I
might be the same girl.
But then I saw the video, and I don't know. I was like looking at it, and she was just telling the story about a married couple. She was in San Diego, and she was a college student, but they paid for her tuition.
Was she already graduated?
And this is, I guess it happened a while ago, and people were in the comments and people, by the way, were in the comments saying, oh, my dream life. Actually, I'm wrong. The actual video, you guys are going to really appreciate this. This woman is saying, my sugar daddy hired me as his nanny.
Okay.
So he's married.
Okay.
My sugar daddy hired me as my nanny and took us on a trip to Disney World. Okay. And so she got to stay at the hotel, and by the way, he's paying for her college. That's how it worked out. Yeah. And she said the wife was aware.
Oh, okay.
And so this particular story was not that she's involved between the two of them physically, but that the wife is aware that the husband is messing with the nanny.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And then so in the comments, people were like, well, the wife probably likes it. Like it's probably part of their dialogue and everything. And I'm like, you know what? To each his own.
Yeah, that's really what it boils down to, honestly. Like, it really just boils down to that, because it's hard for us to judge it when we're not the one living it, and it's easy for us to say, like, monogamy is, like, number one, and that's it, and then there's no other people that are supposed to come into the bedroom with you. And yeah, that's just the way that, we think, but that doesn't mean that that's the right way of thinking. That's just the way that we think. And if your husband's cool with it, then then you go, and if your wife's cool with it, then you just go. Yeah. I just think that it's different when someone's pressuring you to do something you don't want to do just because you're trying to prove a point that you're cool, that you're gonna go above and beyond to show him that, like, you can step it up and be that wife. And I think that it starts off with, like, the playing the games, the ha ha ha, he he he. And I think what happens is people get bored in their marriages. People get bored with, having sex with the same person for, like, the last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So in order to really spice it up and not go through the divorce part of it is, like, to actually bring more energy into the bedroom. And guess what happens sometimes? Sometimes you bring the person into the bedroom. Now I've heard where, the guy's having so much fun with the one girl, and then all of a sudden you're being, isolated. Now there's an issue. It ends up costing you your marriage anyway. Or maybe your husband likes the other girl, and then he's like, seeing her on the side.
So one of the stories is that I had this really good friend back in the day.
Yeah.
She was absolutely gorgeous. She was fit. She just a
things.
Stunning woman. Just a stunning woman. And she married a man who was in entertainment, and she wanted to kind of be the cool wife. And she did say, like, look, he can, he'll probably cheat on me and I'll never even know.
No, yeah.
But I might as well be having some kind of control over the situation. So she opts to then, there's this girl, they went to a strip club. I don't know where they got this person, but I know they used to go to strip clubs together, which is no big deal. But they did, and anyways, they found the person, and they go at it. And when I tell you that apparently he went to town on this other girl and she was just basically on the bench, even though she's in the room, she's
a warm
felt,
bencher that night.
Yeah,
So what is
exactly.
it?
Bench warmer. And she literally, when I tell you her light was dimmed, the confidence level was not really there after that. She cried. She bawled her eyes out because I think she thought, oh, this is kind of like my gift to you, honey. Like, you're going to love me more and you're going to be more attracted to me because I'm doing this for you. And at the end of the day, he was so into that girl. And it just really messed her up for like a long time.
And then at that moment, I don't know, there were probably, in my opinion, there might be some trust issues because you may think the way that he was grabbing her, touching her, holding her, effing her, he might want more of that. And that might make you doubt and think like, maybe he's going to now not do it with me or
do it with you, but thinking about her the whole time.
Or looking for somebody else, too.
Yeah.
Maybe not that particular girl, which is a stripper.
Because eventually he's going to get tired of that, too, right?
Right, of course. But you know what? It's a thing that you're trying to be the cool wife, and you're trying to be like, hey, what if we brought her? What if we brought him? And that's another thing. There are girls that want to have threesomes with other guys, and they talk about the guys, too.
To their partners.
And sometimes I've heard also, like, guys that are open to that. So for me, I will tell you, as we're having this discussion, I would probably sit there and look at my significant other and say, so does he like men? Because think about it, if he's saying like he's trying to gift me that, which is something that supposedly like, we as a woman would want like two men. I don't want that, by the way, just for the record. But let's just say if I was that person and he's like, yeah, let's do that, then that would make me think, okay, so is my significant other, does he like guys too? Is he bisexual? And if you're cool with it, then you're cool with it. But if you're not, that would make you doubt him too.
Because I knew somebody that had that question. We went to brunch, and she was saying that her and her husband could never have intercourse without toys in the room.
Okay.
And that it would always eventually end up being that he was essentially using the toy that's shaped like
a dildo,
a penis, and then inserting it while he would insert himself. So essentially, it would feel like the two guys, or it would appear like the two guys. It plays out like there's two men, but it's just him and it's just her.
Yeah.
And so her question was eventually, this is what he wants to do all the time. So does he technically want to have another? Is he like obsessed with having another dude, or does he think that that's really what I want? Is like to have the
like
two
double
guys,
penetration in a way.
because she's thinking she's being the cool wife by going, let's bring the toys in, and so it's a third party. The toys are third party,
I guess.
and so her thing, she was literally like, I guess it was like eventually her and her husband kind of had an argument about it. And so by the time I had brunch with her, she was very like trying to figure this out.
Okay, so this kind of triggered a thought, and I don't really know the story, by the way, at all, and I don't even want to like mess it all up. But wasn't there a situation that had happened with the Mexican singer Lupillo Rivera and his ex-wife, where like
they were role playing
and it went too far, right? Something like that.
But I think they got the guy involved, just like you received that text message, and they wanted you to play along, and I think it was that kind of thing.
Okay, so we obviously weren't there, so we can't even really speak on it. But point is, it goes to show that if you go too far, it could end your marriage. Unless you guys are both good with being
very
swingers,
secure.
which, by the way, like I've known a lot of people that are like ready and willing. They go to Hollywood and Los Angeles and Orange County, and it's a big community. And if that's what you do, then cool. Like if both of you guys like that, do your thing.
But I think that you can fantasy play and role play and never ever leave the confines of your marriage. And I love the stories of like the women that do like the wigs, and then I think it's like Lisa Rinna with her husband Harry Hamlin, and I think they do something like that where they do like the wigs and then they meet at like some like lounge, and then they sit at the lounge and like she's dressed different. I don't know how all that plays out for people, but I'm all for
I've never done that, but I think I'd be willing to do something that's more exciting than fun. Like, let's really meet this redhead.
Yeah, exactly. But I know that locally, so we live in Southern California, we do have some casinos, and I know know that not too far from here, about 30, 40 minutes from here, there's a really, really famous casino with a wonderful lounge. And when I tell you, this is a bedroom community, meaning, no pun intended, it is a suburban community, like a housewife community. You raise your kids there. There's no city vibes at all. It's a country vibe, wineries and all that.
Everything, yeah.
And when I tell you, like, I cannot even count on these 10 fingers the number of times just being there and everything, and you go to the restroom and then the wife is like, hi, I love your hair. Oh my God, look at your shoes. Oh my God. Da, da. And then eventually they see you again later and they're like, oh honey, look, this is the one I was telling you. And then next thing you know, the husband is like, yeah, so just FYI, my wife, you know, she's very da-da-da. And then they start, and it's this whole thing, and it is
like tag team back again.
And you know what? But you know what? The husband and wife are on the same page. Yeah, they're on the prowl. They're on the hunt. But I think that if you're, you know, fantasizing, if he mentions your friend, men, there's a Fab 15 listening. Yes. If your wife or partner ever says to you, honey, if you could be with any of my friends, which one would you be with? Please do not answer that question. Please, because
please. Such a trick question. And it's best that rather than being, you know, super forward, the cool husband, that you just say, I would never want to be with any of your friends. I just want to be with you. It may be some BS because you may want to bang all of them, but just keep that to yourself.
Please, this is a public service announcement for any of the men
because
listening.
It might salvage your marriage.
And ladies, it could be the same for you.
It could, because sometimes, you know, men can ask that, like, hey, out of all my friends, which one, you know, would you be with? And it's like, I wouldn't be with any of them, like, but they want to know.
Just say, ew, no,
gross, no. But you know what? I these stories I've heard so many times, and it always ends wrong,
badly,
fighting, divorces, and I think it's because at the end of the day, if you are sort of monogamous with each other, people get territorial, and then when you get mad, that's the first thing that pops into your mind to say, maybe he's doing this, or maybe he's into that, or maybe, you know what I mean? There's always the maybes that kind of play out. And so it's just probably best if you try to keep it as wholesome as possible, and it be like just your husband and yourself. And if you have to go buy like 10 wigs
all
and meet
the
at
outfits
10 different,
and all the toys or all the things that you need,
then just go do that. But I think, you know, the role playing thing is it just shows that you're bored.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so you had told a story off camera that was something about a golf, like couples that golfed together or something.
So this is an older. This is pretty bizarre. So this is an older couple, and it's kind of ironic because it's before the podcast, by the way, and I think it just always has happened where people just want to
open up and
share, and she was kind of upset and crying, and I remember I was like, I think at the gym or something like that. And I said, are you okay? And I really didn't know her. And she's like, you know, she starts kind of going through the motions. Point is, long story longer, she basically says that her husband, you know, and her and like this other couple that would golf together all the time decided to kind of do a wife swap, you know, husband-wife swap. The husband liked the other wife, and I guess, you know, because the first question I asked is like, is she younger, is she prettier? Mind you, this couple is very well to do, like extremely well to do, you know, and she said, no, actually she's the same age as me, but she's Asian. Not that matters, by the way, that she's Asian.
It's a different flavor, right?
Right. Mm-hmm. And so now they were going behind her back and the husband's back, and they were hooking up. Mm-hmm. So, but now she felt kind of trapped because it's like, in essence and essentially, yeah, I guess he kind of is cheating, but initially it started off
she encouraged it,
and they were both kind of, you know, under the same understanding. So now she feels like every time he's gone, he's constantly seeing her, and it literally
is. Does she ever go back to that Asian girl's husband?
So I don't know if she ever did that, but I do know that was a big issue. I mean, so much so that, again, she's like, she doesn't know what to do, possibly get divorced, possibly not. And, you know, it's one of those things because you guys both were under the same understanding, and both couples, all four of you guys, knew what you guys were getting yourselves into. And let me tell you, Rachel, if you saw this guy, I don't know, like, I respectfully would think, like, does Viagra work for the guy? Like, for real.
Oh.
Like, literally. Because he's like, I get it. A man's a man. A man's always going to be a man no matter how old he is.
Yep.
And I've heard of men that are like in their 80s are still taking Viagra. So I get it. Like,
there's some in their 80s that aren't taking it, and they're
still
active.
going. Yeah, no. And I guess, like, at the end of the day, you're just still trying to have fun. But I guess they were always...
Use it or lose it.
Use it or lose it. They continue using it. And she was pretty upset about it. And it started off as cool wife vibes to, like, not so much.
I think that, if I put myself in her shoes for a moment, sometimes you build a story about your spouse and about yourself, and you're under the impression that your relationship is really rock solid, even if it's getting a little bit boring, that you guys have a really great bond, and that you have such a bond that you're able to comfortably talk about these options and to go, you know what, honey, let's try it, it'd be fun. And, like, you think you're on the same page, and you think that you're on the same team. And I think that there's a little bit of a delusion because you can't imagine that he would even do something like that,
okay,
right?
So really quick, have you heard now? Because, back in the day, if you had, like, porn playing, it was just part of, like, what you would do. It's not that big of a deal. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But now I've heard more and more of, like, the, like the coaches, like the couple coaches or, like, the marriage counselors saying that you should not, as a couple, if you guys are both trying to be monogamous and be with each other and be a rock solid relationship, that you should not be watching porn. Have you seen that? Have you heard that? I
have heard that. And so my takeaway on that is I'm not pro or against it, but my takeaway from it is porn is to men what vibrators are to women. It creates sexual dysfunction. And the number of friends that I had this one friend a long time ago. I love her. She's so funny. And she was an older lady. And she literally told a story about how she was addicted to her vibrator to the point where she just was like, any man she was with, it was just so lackluster that she just was like, oh. And so she would be with this thing that she was a little thing. I remember she even, like, showed us.
Oh, man.
And she's like, this sucker. Yeah, she's like, this sucker.
I don't know how I feel about.
No, yeah, she's like, this sucker is the most amazing thing ever.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
she said she even had to break it and smash it, and only to, like, 5 days later reorder another one. She was fully addicted to it. And so what I'm getting at is men, when you talk to men and they're watching all of this stuff, their idea of what needs to turn them on actually changes and evolves. And so basically, if you're addicted to vibrators, no average man is going to be able to get you off right away. And if you're a man who's getting overly stimulated with blondes, brunettes, big butts, big boobs, little boobs, skinny, thick, like all of these things just constantly, and then now you have your wife who gave you 3 kids and maybe doesn't go to the gym. Maybe she does go to the gym, but maybe her ass is flat, or maybe it's not.
C-section
maybe it's this, whatever it might be. There's, like, in his mind, it's not like computing, okay? Because he's already been getting off, at lunchtime or whatever with everything else. So for that reason, I would say,
Don't do it.
I would say, yeah, if you can, for the most part, have an actual, genuine, organic sexual experience with your partner as often as possible. But I was guilty of it too. We've talked about that.
So no, we have, and I can say that I was guilty of it too. But now, when we're doing this and we have, like, these different people that are coming on our lives, and they're basically, like, educating us and breaking bro code and, like, really telling us about marriage, divorce, and love life and so forth. And now they're saying that actually that's really bad in the marriage and the relationship because it creates it. First of all, you can never compete with a porn star, and that's not real sex. That's number one.
Right.
And then secondly, if you do act like a porn star, your husband's going to look at you like...
They're going to question everything. They lose respect.
Yes.
They love it in the moment, but
then there's a question mark over your head like, huh. But it's like, well, I'm only just role-playing from what I'm seeing.
That's it.
And so, I don't know, that's been something that's been lingering in my mind because of the lives that we've done and the conversations that we've had with people that they say, do not have porn playing in the background. And if you are in a monogamous relationship, do not bring out the toys because it desensitizes you.
It's back to the role playing though, because the toys are part of this role play.
The illusion,
and watching the films or watching whatever is part of the role play. It's part of this imaginary thing, this fantasy world that you're creating for yourself. It's all part of that next level avatar status, whatever you want to say to yourself. And guess what? it's taking away from the person that's in front of you. It seems like it's adding to.
But it's not. I think if you really think about it, as you're with the person, you're really thinking about all the things that are going on the exterior, whether that's like the TV's on, the porn. It's like, okay, she's here, but I'm picturing that blonde there, even though I have a brunette.
Yeah, and you're picturing Enrique Iglesias, and it's like a whole big old freaking...
Yeah, or, you know, obviously, let's just say there's, like, you know, the porn star penis, and your husband has, like, not a porn star penis,
short,
obviously,
tort
you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden you're like, why couldn't I just get the porn star penis? Why did I get this thing? Like, you're like, what happened? Where is it? Like, we missed it here. We missed it. And so I think that's the unfortunate part, that you're doing so much comparisons. And without knowing it, though.
Without
realizing that you're doing that. And I think, you know, in my opinion, it's really been an eye-opener.
Yeah.
Like, big time.
Yeah.
But,
so we were where you ladies are probably at, and we've learned some things, and we're still kind of deliberating, and we're still trying to figure things out, you know?
And we're still trying to see if, like, you know, do we bust out toys or not?
Do we not
know?
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I'm like, we could really keep going on the toy conversation, because I know the conversations we've had, and I'm like, oh man, we're going to save that for another time.
On the next episode of You Deserve Fresh Lettuce, we are going to be discussing
Toy Story.
Toy Story. What kind of toys should you buy? Chargeable, non-chargeable, batteries, or not? You know, just we're out here. So anyway, but that's on the next episode of Toy Story.
I mean, to be continued.
To be continued. Anyway.
Well, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Check us out next week. And don't forget to follow us on social media at YDFL Podcast. Listen to us on your favorite podcast platforms.
And YouTube.
Check us out on YouTube.
Ask Alexa
to
play You Deserve Fresh Lettuce podcast. Cheers.
All right, cheers.